Is that MF Doom over there?
It is.
MF Doom. What's he doing here?
He's just one of the artists that I really like. He's very strange. His lyrics were very, very different than a lot of like mainstream artists, and the beats, bro. He just had, his beats were outstanding.
Yeah, he was certainly original.
Yeah.
And unique. Now, obviously, we're here at Ottawa Jiu-Jitsu Club, and your name is, introduce yourself for people who might not know.
My name is Brandon Keel. I own and operate, teach at Ottawa Jiu-Jitsu. Yeah.
What's it like being a teacher and a gym owner?
Honestly, it's awesome. Jiu-Jitsu is my favorite thing in the world, and I get to just like share my favorite thing with people every day, all day. And I did business and stuff growing up, and I've run a bunch of businesses, so the business side of thing is easy, and so I can just focus on doing jiu-jitsu. So it's like, it's not work.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
I don't think many people get to, you know what I mean, experience that, doing something that they're passionate about, something that they love for a living, that is.
Yeah.
And it's awesome that you're pursuing that. In addition to that, for folks who may not realize, we are at the dojo, we are at the Jiu-Jitsu Club, but we're also in the studio space, right?
In the studio, yeah. I built a music/video studio inside the gym because I spend most of my time here, and I don't want to have to go anywhere else. Like, my studio used to be in Gatineau, and I kind of stopped going because I'm here all the time. And so we had an extra room, and we closed it off, and now I got all my studio gear here. It's awesome.
What's the Ottawa Jiu-Jitsu story?
It kind of was like forced on me. Like, I was working at another gym in 2020, and March 2020, everybody kind of was out of work. And when I was coming back from like the first lockdown in October, November, I don't really remember the timeline, but I was only teaching, I went from teaching 14, 15 classes a week to teaching like 5 or 6 a week. And, I couldn't pay my bills with that. And so I got wind of this place, which used to be Arcana. I heard that they were shutting down, or he was just going to stop doing Arcana. And I heard about that in the first 10 minutes, and I called him right away, and I started talking with him, and then I started talking to the landlord, and then I got the lease, and then I had to figure out how to get mats, and I hooked up with Chris at a National Capital Wrestling Club, and now we got a gym. Yeah.
What's it like having your own space? You know what I mean? Like this is your own dojo space now. Before you were at another gym, as you were explaining to us. What does that mean for the dojo, for your students, for the business? Having your own sort of, your own space. What is that?
Honestly, every time I unlock the door and walk up the stairs, I'm like a little kid.
Wow.
Because I own a gym. It blows my mind. I'm from a small town in Nova Scotia, and now I got a business, and it's a martial arts gym right down the street from the National, or the Parliament building, right? It was the capital city of Canada, and that's huge for me because, like I said, I'm from Beaver Bank, Nova Scotia. Grew up in the trailer park, Woodbine. And now I'm just down the road from Parliament. Being able to come here whenever I want, at any point in time, is probably it's like I'm free or something. It feels like because I'm free to do whatever I want. Like, I got a gym set up, so I lift weights here, and if I need to just relax, I can come here and like just stretch and throw on some music, and there's nobody here. And I've always kind of worked out in private gyms too. Like when it comes to strength and conditioning, I've always tended to work out in more private gyms. And so now I got my own gym and I can work out by myself like at any point in time of day. Like I'll come in here at midnight sometimes and just work out, or if I just want to lay on the floor, you know, and the floors are always clean, so I'm a bit of a germaphobe, so these floors are clean and I can just come just lay on the floor sometimes.
I think it's awesome that you're germaphobe, because as you know, gyms tend to, you know, collect a lot of,
Jiu-Jitsu
you
is
know,
disgusting.
Yeah, there's a lot of bacteria, there's staph, there's and it's you know, it can be very, very serious, but you're a germaphobe, so I mean that's a vote of confidence. That ensures that everyone who trains here, the mats are clean,
yes,
and all that. But I just want to go back to you were talking about, you know, being from Nova Scotia, and I'm from Ottawa. I've been here forever, and I've met many Scotians. And what was that like, if you don't mind me asking, relocating from Nova Scotia to Ontario, particularly within the martial arts, the dichotomy as far as, you know, the Jiu-Jitsu ecosystem in Nova Scotia vis-a-vis that of Ontario or even Quebec? Can you paint that picture for us?
Like I came out here on a whim. I was actually supposed to move to Montreal because I had a friend that was opening up a gym in Montreal, and I was going to start teaching there, and that fell through. And so I didn't really know what I was going to do, and I kind of sold half of my belongings already because I was planning to move to Montreal, and I was like, I didn't know what I was going to do. So another friend of mine I contacted, and they were like, I'm moving to Ottawa, I got a job out there, and I got this brand new place that I'm moving into. And I was just like, you got room? You got room for me in the house or in your U-Haul? They were like, yeah. And so, you know, I finished selling the rest of my belongings, and I moved out here. And the reason why I moved out here specifically was because she gave me the address to where we were going to be moving, and I think it was a 5-minute drive away from a gym, and on the map it said RCJ Machado, and I knew who the Machados were. So I was super excited because I thought like I was going to get to train with like a black belt, like a Machado black belt or something. I wasn't 100% sure about the school or anything, but it was 5 minutes from a jiu-jitsu gym, so I was like, I'm sold.
Right.
I moved out, and the street that I moved on was so new that it wasn't even on Google Maps. It was like I put the address in, and it was like in the middle of a bunch of gray area, and then off to the side was this RCJ Machado gym. And so, you know, my first 2 days here, I made a call, and I was like, can I come train? And they were like, well, you got to come do this, you got to do an intro thing. And I was like, okay, I'll come do that, I guess, but can I just come train? And they were like, yeah, but you got to come do the intro. And so the intro was like, I had to do this half an hour private lesson with another blue belt who was going to show me how to do a hip bump sweep and and an elbow escape, and they wanted to show me around the gym, and you know, basically it was a sales tactic.
Okay.
And I was so done with that. As soon as I talked to him on the phone, I was like, I couldn't believe that, like, because I came from a gym, you know, I had already been training for like 8 to 10 years or something.
Oh wow, in jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, in jiu-jitsu. I was already, about 10 years I was already training, so I didn't need fucking beginner intro thing. I just wanted to like sign a waiver and start training. Right. But they put me through the thing anyways, and they started to tell me, you know, they gave all these options to sign up, and here's your 3 months thing, and it comes with a gi, and this, it comes with this, and I just signed on the dotted line so I could train and got through it, and you know, I went to my first class, and I ended up like doing really well, and you know, the level of jiu-jitsu wasn't what I thought it was going to be. You know, I came from a Hicks and Gracie school, and so the jiu-jitsu
in Halifax.
In Halifax,
Okay.
my teacher was a Hicks and Gracie black belt.
Oh, wow.
So the level of jiu-jitsu at my gym was awesome.
Okay.
Like, there was monsters there, and I trained in Halifax too at a gym called Titans, which was a Henzo Gracie gym, and they were like. That was like the biggest team at the time.
They're an MMA gym as well, right?
Yeah, they're an MMA gym and stuff too. So they were really tough, and I trained there on like Sundays at their open mats. And so the level of jiu-jitsu I was used to was like, it was way different than this gym was like a family gym, and it was all about. It was unfortunate to say, but it was just like a revolving door. It was just trying to get people in and sign up, and you know, it wasn't necessarily about the jiu-jitsu there. It was more about the business.
Okay.
So anyways, like after a month of beating everybody up, they gave me a job, and then
Nice.
I ended up working at 4 of the schools that they owned.
Oh, wow.
Like
Okay.
a month after that, I was working in Barrhaven, I was working in Orleans, I was working in Vanier, I was working on Wellington Street, like all of the gyms I was working at immediately. And so I kind of accomplished my goal because I was moving out here to kind of pursue jiu-jitsu, which was the original plan to move to Montreal. And so I was working as a jiu-jitsu teacher pretty much right away, which was awesome.
Do you ever think back, if you don't mind me quickly interrupting, you know, initially the plan was to go to Montreal, right?
Yeah.
And then that fell apart or whatever, and you found another opportunity, you created another opportunity to come to Ottawa, and look at you now, you know, which is amazing, you know what I'm saying? But do you ever think back and say, what if I had gone to Montreal? What would have happened, or the tradition? You know how it is sometimes.
I really wish I would have, because my dream has always been to go train at TriStar. Like, you know, I grew up watching, you know, George St. Pierre and Rory McDonald was another guy that I really liked out of that gym, and they had.
And I think you're more of a Montreal. I don't know you that well. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But you seem like a very relaxed, chill, sort of Montreal sort of vibe. You know, you're not the uptight Ottawa sort of. No disrespect to Ottawa folks.
Not a government.
You know what I mean? There you go. You know, so this is why I ask. So, do you still have connections to Montreal? Do you still?
I have so funny that you say that. I moved here by September. I was pursuing an acting career.
Okay.
All right. So I moved here. I think July 1st was the day that I arrived, basically, or August. By September, I had an agent, and I did a couple courses, and then by January, I booked my first gig as an actor. So they paid me like $2,500 to do this.
Okay,
well, that was it.
So, but what prompted that? What prompted this you know, reaching for acting?
Well, I had a girlfriend whose sister was a model, and I think I was on Kijiji or something, because like I buy and sell crap all the time, just like as a side hustle,
right?
And I saw this ad for acting, modeling stuff, and I reached out to my ex, and I was like, "Is this like a legit thing?" And she was like, "Yeah, my sister has gone all over the world, you know, with this agency, and so it's legit. Just like if they're having open castings or whatever, just go check it out. And the worst they're gonna say is no." And so I went and checked it out, and they said yes. And so I did a couple of their courses, and you know, my agent is Angie and Lou Seymour, and they have hooked me up with a lot of really cool opportunities. And like I was saying, in January, I booked my first gig. I went to a modeling audition. I thought it was an audition for like a commercial or something, but it turned out to be an audition for a fucking a catwalk, a model, runway show. Yeah. And you know, I'm like, I just got the email, and I was really close to the spot, and I was like, "Can I go to this?" I asked my agent. She was like, "Yeah, go." And so I went, and they're like, "All right, everybody's got to stand up, you got to walk, and then say your name, and then turn around and walk back. And I was like, what do you mean walk? Like, is this for a commercial or something? They're like, no, it's for a fashion show. And I was like, I didn't sign up for this. And I messaged my agent, and she was like, yeah, just walk like normal, like just walk. It's not a hard thing. And I was like, okay, so I did it, and I booked it. So I booked this fashion show in Ottawa, and then after that, I booked like 5 shows in Toronto. And then I did Toronto Men's Fashion Week. And then after that, I got picked up in an agency in Italy. And then I moved to Milan. And I lived there for like 4 or 5 months.
Wow, how was that? How was Milan?
Bro, I got some of it was the first time I really been anywhere. Ever, like
outside of North America.
Like I was in Montreal a bunch, and then I moved to Ottawa, and then I went to Toronto for the first time in like November of 2014.
Wow, you never been to the States? I mean, you're pretty close in Nova Scotia,
I was never in the States. I never really left Nova Scotia other than to go to Montreal or New Brunswick. You know?
Okay. What's wrong with New Brunswick?
Nothing's wrong with New Brunswick.
You rolled your eyes.
Nothing. New Brunswick's all right. St. John's smells weird though. But
I've never been. That was just
smells like rotten eggs or something. Because I think of the refineries or something. It fucking stinks. Yeah. Is it St. John? It might be Fredericton. I don't know. It's one of those places, but I hate it there. But I never really been anywhere, so I got this opportunity to move to Milan, and I ended up moving to Milan, and I booked a bunch of stuff over there. Like I booked this gig, and it had my picture on all the trains and all the bus stops, and like my face.
Your picture.
My face was all over the.
What? Okay, tell us what that feeling was like when
it was weird, man.
Saw
like I'm from Beaver Bank, Nova Scotia, and I came out to Ottawa to be like a fighter guy, you know, and then I'm all of a sudden doing fashion shows and
that's
shit,
amazing.
Getting my makeup done, you know.
That is amazing. I mean, it was
like strange, but it was so fun.
I mean,
so fun.
I think people hearing this are probably thinking like. Well, I'm thinking, what an interesting sort of trajectory of experiences. And you were open to the process. You didn't shut the door and say, I'm not walking on. You know what I mean?
I just went with it, man.
Yeah. And how was, okay, so you describe, set the story up, please. Tell us about walking and seeing all these faces that look very familiar.
What do you mean?
You know, when you said you had your face.
Oh, yeah. Like I did this campaign for a company out there that does like wedding stuff. It's like a high-end suit and dress shop or whatever. I think it's called Damas Sposi or something in Milan. And I didn't know what it was really for because everything's in Italian. Right. And you just get sent and they look at you, and then if you book it, then you end up going to do the work. Right. I didn't know what the work was for because I don't speak Italian, and I just show up and they take pictures and then I leave. And then like a couple months later, I'm all over the fucking city. It was wild too because like. Did
you take pictures of this?
I got all kinds of pictures, kinds of pictures of all of this, and it was cool too because I made a bunch of friends out there, and because it was running when I had left too, so I had a bunch of friends that were over there still working. Mm-hmm. They were like sending me pictures of them like with me, you know, like at the train station, or like the whole fucking train was like me and this other guy. Like it's all over the whole train. So that was absolutely ridiculous. Like I'm from Beaver Bank, Nova Scotia, and I'm supposed to be fighting people, and
what are people back home saying when they saw that?
I don't know. Like my dad, he's super supportive. He never thought I would do anything like this or anything because he's a martial artist too, and so we're both just sitting there like, well, just go with it. It wouldn't have happened if you didn't like leave Nova Scotia. So like just, you know, take the opportunities, you know, that those opportunities wouldn't have happened if I didn't go. And the other cool thing about being in Milan was I went to a gym that was Milanimo, like shout out to Milanimo and Andrea Baggio. Those guys kind of helped me see what training to win competitions was all about, because their gym was specifically like they trained in a way that was really modern to me, because like I come from a Hicks and Gracie school originally, and that's super white gi only, open, close guard, that's it, cross chokes every day, all day. And this is the first time like somebody's showing me De La Hiva, reverse De La Hiva stuff, and we did like 25-30 minutes of drills, and then we went right into specific training and rolls. So I was in heaven, because like the fun part of jiu-jitsu is rolling, and I didn't know what was going on either, because they're all speaking Italian, and he goes tempo, and everybody goes and gets a drink, and I'm like, what's going on? And then one of my buddies there was like, we're gonna roll now, and I was like, we're rolling already? Like we just did like one technique. Yeah, it's time to train. So I started training with them. Like a couple of days later, they invited me to the comp team sessions, and every day that I wasn't like working, doing the model and shit, I was training with them. So I got in trouble a few times, because I ended up getting a couple black eyes, and I have marks all over my face, because I was there training. Right. Yes. They want me to stay pretty, I guess, and then I'm getting all beat up and looking like haggard
Well, what did you tell them in regards?
I just told them I was training, and they told me not to, but like I'm not gonna not train. Like I got to train. This was one of the coolest gyms I ever trained at. Like
interesting.
It was brand new too. They had just moved to like a new location, and it was like brand new white mats everywhere. One side was jiu-jitsu, the other side was CrossFit, and like they were just cool people. Like they started teaching the classes in English because I was there, because they wanted to practice their English, and they had somebody to practice their English with. Right. So they made me feel super welcome, and I was there every day. Like any time that I wasn't working, I was training. So it was it kind of opened my eyes up to what jiu-jitsu was like about when it came to winning competitions, like a training like non-traditional kind of way. And it was way different than the gyms that I was teaching at and stuff too, because I was teaching the way that I was taught, like the running around in circles and doing your shrimps down the mat, and your butt scoots and all that stuff. And the way that they trained was just so different, and it was just like, this is where I want to be. And
like it was more sports specific.
It was more sports specific. So it was all about winning competitions and learning like the strategies on how to like use the mat, and it was just and the Mendez brothers came down, so I got to roll with the Mendez brothers
in the gym in Milan.
They came down. They were there for like 2 weeks or something, so I got to train with them a bunch while they were there. They did a couple days where they were teaching, a couple days where they did seminars, and I got to train with the Mendez brothers too for the first time. So that was mind-blowing. They're teaching me. I'm a big guy. I never did a berimbolo in my life, and they're teaching berimbolos, and it was so much fun, man. Like, and the Mendez brothers are their jiu-jitsu is like from space, bro. So it was wild.
You're tell us how tall you are, and how much you weigh, and what the heaviest in terms of weight you've been, because from what I've seen of your jiu-jitsu, you're very mobile, you have flexibility, and it's I have never rolled, we've never fought or anything like that, grappled, but I can tell you're strong, but you're also mobile, flexible, and agile for a big. How tall are you?
I'm 6'3". I just measured myself last night, actually.
Okay.
And I'm a little bit taller than 6'3". So that made me feel nice. 6'3". Right now I'm about 225-ish.
Okay.
And when I was in Milan, I was like a lot lighter. I was like 215. I was supposed to be losing weight while I was there, but I wasn't. I was just living it up, eating all the good food and training. But yeah, right now I'm 225, 6'3", and a little bit.
How would you describe your style to jiu-jitsu? Not so much the teaching and all that, but in terms of the competition style, Brandon Keel jiu-jitsu. Like, give us 5 keywords that would describe your style, or as many as you want, or as little.
I don't know. I'm like, it's hard to say, but I like to have fun. So I don't know. I'm slow. I got bad cardio, but like when I am in good shape, like I like to stay on top because just throughout my career, everybody pulls guard on me. So I'm not really a guard puller that much. So I like to stay on top. I like to have, I play a pretty strong pressure game. And I like to choke people. So, stay on top and smush.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a big guy, so
Right.
I try to use my weight as much as possible. And I also like to just like drag people around.
Right.
It's just fun, man. Like,
and I
sign a waiver and
right.
They're saying, yes, we get to fight. So I get to kind of go try to hurt people.
Why not?
I don't know, man.
I mean,
fun,
it's a creative form of hurting people. It's there's techniques involved. There's strategies. There's a lot to consider. I haven't seen you fight live, but I've seen highlight videos of you and so on. And one thing I had noticed, I think it was primarily gi. No gi. That the stuff that I saw was as a commentator, whatever. From what I could see, I'm like, man, you move like you say you're slow. I don't know about that. You know what I mean? For a big dude, I'd say you're definitely not slow.
Yeah.
And you're also there's a flair of creative to your ground grappling, but also your stand up. Because one of the things that jumped out at me for real was like, holy shit, this guy actually goes for fucking throws. Pardon my language.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like we see you actually engage, as you mentioned, in the stand-up. And that to me was like I got a headache because I was like, what am I seeing? Because to be honest, bro, and it's not a knock on anyone, and if people take this as a knock, then I don't know what's going on. But the thing is, it's a full picture of what grappling is, from the stand-up to the transition to the ground and that huge
love wrestling and stuff, man. And like, like I said, I come from a Hicks and Gracie kind of lineage.
Right.
And their whole thing was like real jiu-jitsu, the four steps,
Right.
Get them to the ground. So you get them to the ground, get around their legs, get a good position, and finish the fight. So I take that, really seriously, and I practice stand-up every day. Like I wrestle with my no-gi. I do, I train judo a bunch too, so that I could get good at stand-up. But I really like stand-up. I like throwing people. All the judo throws are so much fun, and they're technical. And if people actually engage standing up, then I love stand-up. Like I like wrestling and I like throwing people. Actually, before I did jiu-jitsu, I did wrestling. So,
oh wow, okay. Back in Nova Scotia?
Yeah,
okay.
I started wrestling before I ever did jiu-jitsu.
Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, wrestling, man, and the stand-up part is, I don't know, there's just so much to it. It's like its own thing.
Right.
And it is its own thing. Like there's wrestling, right? And judo.
For sure.
So stand-up for me is super important. And like the way I teach too is like get people to the ground. Don't just pull guard. Of course we practice pulling guard and that strategy too, but I'd say like 75-80% of the stuff that we do is takedown because, like be a complete grappler. I want to be a well-rounded grappler. There's so many people out there that can't throw anybody. They just sit down. And I think that's foolishness.
Yeah, and I appreciate what you're saying there, and I think there's a real value to being a complete grappler. Just like in school, if you're studying science, you've got chemistry, you've got physics, you've got biology. You know what I mean? Like you're going to be exposed to all of those. Did I miss one? Chemistry, biology. You know what I'm saying? So it's good to have, especially for those who are curious about grappling. It's good to have that sort of the full spectrum.
Yeah.
And I see that at your gym. You guys are actually, even to the children, you're actually drilling throws. and takedowns, just getting them to understand those concepts. And I think that's awesome. And as far as the pull and guard thing, obviously there's a time to pull guard, and it's very practical, but it's also practical to learn, one or two throws for the love of God, for the love of grappling. You know what I'm saying?
Well, the thing too is like a street situation. I always bring that into play when I'm talking about jiu-jitsu to like my students and stuff. And like, you're never going to pull guard if you get into an altercation. So yeah, I'll teach pulling guard. Like I think tonight we did guard pull stuff, but at the end of class, I told everybody, if you pull guard in the street, you're going to get kicked in the fucking face if you don't know what you're doing.
Right.
And that's going to be the end of the fight. And if you don't know how to like stand your ground and at least know enough wrestling to defend, then I don't know. I just think it's silly that people don't practice wrestling. And for me, I'm saying complete grappler. I want to be good at all parts of it.
Right.
Right. And
Absolutely.
it's fun. It's like wrestling is its own thing.
Sure.
And it's something to practice. And it's just a huge part of the art. So I'm a martial artist. I want to do all this stuff. I think it's fun. So, I think there's with sport jiu-jitsu, there's a lot of guard pull stuff, but I think it's important to focus on the stand-up game and actually trying to get step one of jiu-jitsu down, which is take your partner down.
Right.
I don't know.
Let's go back a little bit, because it sounds like you've had the exposure. You've been exposed to different martial arts.
Yeah.
Over the years. How long have you been doing jiu-jitsu overall? So thus far?
18 years, I think.
2 years shy of 20 years, which is impressive. How has your opinion or your approach to the sport changed? Because, I'm sure over time you've acquired new skills, new perspective. You've been exposed to different communities. Not all jiu-jitsu gyms necessarily train the same, whether it's in Canada, whether it's in Europe. There's sport competition focused gyms that are very, scientific in their in their approach. They're looking at, elite performance, so on. And then there's the more recreational. Then there's even the more kata based. And I think all of those are awesome for the ecosystem. I think you go wherever you want to go, because there's folks who may have,
there's a place for everybody.
Exactly.
Martial arts. There's a gym. If you don't like where you're training, there's a gym just down the road that you can try. And then there's a gym right beside that one. Ottawa people are lucky. If you don't like it here, there's like 5 gyms in a 5-kilometer radius right
It's incredible, yeah.
So you can always find like your place. Like if somebody doesn't, or they have a bad experience in martial arts, they can just go down the street and train somewhere else. Like try all the gyms. Try them all. Absolutely.
And it's awesome, in Ottawa, this city's got 1 million people. If on average overall, it's got 1 million plus.
But yeah, you're saying, you're asking me
your evolution as a grappler.
So, I was saying earlier that I did the traditional warm up.
One second. Yeah. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to check to see that I know I hit the record button, but I'm going to fucking
make sure.
Because if I haven't hit the record button, you're going to have to choke me out, because this conversation is gold. Hold on 1 second.
It's going.
Woo. Thank you, God.
When it comes to jiu-jitsu and wanting to stay, I guess ahead of the pack, which is really hard to do.
Why is that?
Because I'm not training with the best guys in the world. I'm not, at Art of Jiu-Jitsu or at Marcelo's anymore, or I'm not. I don't know. It's just this sport's always changing. So what is the best? There's so many guys that are amazing at jiu-jitsu, and they all have different styles. So to stay at the front and to be at the cutting edge of jiu-jitsu I feel like that's something that you always kind of have to be doing, because staying the same, it works to a point, but like you have to be willing to evolve. So I've always had that approach. And the way that I taught 8 years ago when I first landed in Ottawa is way different than how I teach now. Like I've had the opportunity to train with really good guys over the years. And like I said, in Milan, and then after Milan, I moved to New York City, and I trained at Marcelo Garcia's. So his approach to jiu-jitsu was amazing, and it was one of the most fun classes I ever did in my life. And, you know, I was training there.
In your life?
Yes. Yeah, it was so much fun, man. Yeah. Like,
well, you're going to have to tell us what was so fun about it.
It was Marcelo Garcia. Like, they did a warm-up where you run around the gym and everything, but, like, they would do races where you're, like, you know, on your hands and you're on one foot, or you have to roll all the way down the mats or whatever. It was just so much fun. They'd play games and stuff to warm up. It was like, it felt like a adult version of a kid's class.
Wow.
So we were playing games,
wow,
you know,
that's awesome.
But it was like fun jiu-jitsu games.
Right.
And like obviously the jiu-jitsu was awesome too. So I took bits of Milanimal and what I learned from Marcelo and what I've learned watching jiu-jitsu, because I spend like 90% of my time outside of the gym watching jiu-jitsu and stuff too. There's so much content out there. And, you know, I have a Flow Grappling subscription and a Fight Pass subscription.
Nice.
So I can watch pretty much any match that you can think of. And so I'm always watching stuff, and I'm always actually trying to watch what people are doing in their gyms.
Okay.
Right? So I've like last year too, my buddy Nick, he had me over at his gym to help him train for like Worlds and stuff.
Nick Castiglia.
Yep.
Okay.
Really good dude. Everybody around here probably knows him. Awesome guy. Owns one of the most successful gyms in Ottawa, and yeah, really good dude. Helped me out in a lot of big ways over the last couple of years, and he had some really good guys come to Ottawa to teach the classes and stuff.
Okay.
And like Tiago Barros came up, and Tiago is one of the main instructors at Cicero Costa in Brazil. Cicero Costa, I think last year or whatever, on the ranking on teams, I think they were in top 10. So they were either in number 10 or number 9 in the world for teams, jiu-jitsu teams.
Right.
And so that's a huge thing. And that gym is like on the cutting edge. Like they always got young people in there training, getting better, whatever. But I got to see how they run their classes, because Tiago was running the classes. So I didn't go to necessarily learn a specific technique. I went to learn how to be a coach.
Nice.
So
that's
I
awesome.
learned so much from Tiago. Like, I love that guy. I wish I could train with him every day. He's such a good coach. His approach to jiu-jitsu teaching was amazing. So I got to train with him. I got to train with Hamla Bahal for a few days. Hamla's multiple-time world champion. Draculino came up, so he taught a class when he was here. I got to see how he coaches too, and a buddy of mine, Cam Flowcheck. I don't know how to say his last name, but Cameron. He's been training with John Danaher, so he kind of told me how John runs his classes, and you know, I listen to all the podcasts that he's on, and anything that any of his students are talking about, I'm always listening to, because I want to try to see if I can implement some of that stuff in the way I teach, the way I run my classes, because it's not necessarily the techniques that you're teaching. Like, everybody knows jiu-jitsu, right? And it's not necessarily the techniques that are going to get you the wins. It's the way you run your training room, and that, and the way wrestling kind of runs their practices. All that is how I kind of incorporate it. Like, I've changed over the years to kind of fit more how wrestlers train.
Interesting.
And I feel like the way that we train now is very similar to how you would train at a John Danaher class or a Tiago class or a Cicero Costa class in Brazil, and and I've had confirmation on that too, because I've had these guys come teach my students and stuff too. Like I had Tiago in my gym, and it's really cool because I don't ever have to worry about changing things, because my students here are okay with that, because they've been with me for some of them 5-6 years now, and they've seen where we've gone to, and some of them have reached a pretty high level, and they're only, I think my highest is a purple belt right now, Emra. But she's been able to do some really cool things in jiu-jitsu, and our group is just getting better all the time, and we do really well at the tournaments and stuff. Being a small team, we do really well,
You guys are sorry to interrupt. I do want to go back to a few things you said, but you guys are a competition gym, right? Sorry, let me repeat that. You have a competition component.
Yeah. Every night we do a competition section to class. Right,
and you push your students if they want to compete and pursue. You encourage them to compete, right? Yeah,
I do.
And I asked that because I remember years ago seeing pictures of the team, and it was small. Yeah. But you guys were always, like, you were sending folks out.
Yeah, we go to as many competitions as we can. Like, I'm from Nova Scotia, and we didn't have that many competitions. It was like 4 a year or something at one point. And
for jiu-jitsu.
For jiu-jitsu competitions. Right. So we would have to travel to like Montreal and stuff, and do the competitions out here.
Or New Brunswick.
Well, New Brunswick didn't really have many competitions either. There was like,
I think judo, they have
one. I never did a judo competition. I still want to do that, but
you should, man.
I want to get my judo black belt one day. So, but we got all these competitions out here, and I encourage my guys to go do as many competitions as they can, because it's going to get them ready for the big stages when they want to go to Worlds and they want to go do Euros and stuff. There are some people here that are planning on doing these tournaments, and they're trying to get ready. So I want people to be ready for them, and the only way to get ready for competitions is by doing them.
From having interviewed folks at your gym here who've competed internationally, one thing I heard is you have a very meticulous approach to coaching for competition. Well planned out from A to the Z, and I guess you've answered the question. You're always continuously trying to improve your coaching, your approaches, the drills you present for your student, and I think to a point where you even customize per student. Looking at
100%. Like, I try to push people to their strengths. Like, I want people to learn specific systems and stuff, but everybody's learning the same kind of systems to have a well-rounded game and stuff. But I will always push my students towards their strengths first, especially in the beginning, because in the beginning, when you're first starting out in competitions, it's like, it's all over the place. Like, people grab a hold of your collar and your sleeve, and then they grab a hold of your collar and your sleeve, and then they spin around in circles for 5 minutes. Right. And it's ridiculous. So I try to push people towards their strength, especially in the beginning, because that can, first off, it makes it more fun because you feel like you're getting better at something that you're already kind of good at. And two, it just helps people retain stuff more. Like, if you're already, say, good, or you have a knack for the wrestling side of things, then I'm going to push you to work on your wrestling more. But if you're there's some people in here that just look like they're guard players. So I'm just I give them specific stuff to work on because they're more of a guard player type thing. Like, there's people in here that I specifically will teach X-guard because they're small and they can get under people, and it just, every time I see them rolling, they're already under people. So without even knowing X-guard, they're kind of there. So then I push people to their strengths. If somebody's really strong and they're top heavy, then I push them to stay on top, it just kind of makes sense. And and it keeps people interested too. I find, like, I'm not gonna make somebody who likes wrestling just like pull guard over and over again, because they're gonna hate their life. I will I will kind of tell people that are more wrestlers or whatever to practice their guard, because they're already good at one thing. So like we have a lot of wrestlers come through because we got National Capital Wrestling Club as part of our gym. So when those guys come in, I tell them they should just practice their guard, because they already know how to stand up and throw people. So I don't know, it's everybody kind of has their own customized kind of plan from me, especially if they're showing an interest in competing. Like I want them to do well, so I will push people to in the direction that they're already kind of going. I won't just be like, no, you can't do this, no, you can't do that. We got a saying in our gym, if it works, it works, right? So if you do something and it works over and over again, and it's not exactly what I showed in class, and you're not gripping the proper way or pushing them to the left like I told you to, I don't care about any of that. As long as you're like doing something similar, it's working for you. Everybody's different, you know. So you know, if it works, it works. So I let people kind of do their own thing for the most part. Yeah, I have a plan and we have systems that we kind of follow, but again, I want people to have fun, and I want people to be successful. And if you're already good at something, or you look like you're good at something, then I'm going to push you in that direction, because why not, you know?